All right. And our last question comes from Janet. My husband and I both came late to investing in our late 30s. I would argue that's not too
no,
that's
not
not
as
too
late
bad.
as
Not as late as some, yeah. We'd like to give our kids ages 12, 8, and 5 a better start. We've already taught them about savings, and they each have a small savings account. Now our kids are asking us questions about investing as they overhear us talking about our stocks and brokerage accounts. Aww. It seems like a good time to formally introduce them to investing. Our questions are: what is the best way to set up a brokerage account for them? Should we put their respective names as a joint owner? We don't want them to have control over transactions yet, or should we simply make our own sub-accounts with the understanding that XYZ accounts are meant for each child? 2, do you recommend any fantasy investing account where they can buy and sell pretend shares without playing with real money? Are there any safe games apps that teach kids about investing in a fun way?
Yeah. First of all, congratulations. I think I know that your children will thank you later on in life for getting them started, because as we know with investing, this compounded interest is a great thing. And it's really when you start, not even so how much you save, but getting a start at 12 and 8 and that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
They're going to have such a head start in life. So congratulations on that. What should you do? I think you should probably consider setting up a custodial account. And so I would set it up in their name. You're going to have to oversee that until they're 18 years old. But we did that for each of our kids, but you can go in there and they can watch you make the trade and do all that kind of stuff. They can see what they own, and that's a great way for them to get started. So I think a custodial account is probably the way to go. And then
when they turn 18, do the money automatically go to them and it's
take
out
it
of
over.
your hands?
Yep, it's all theirs then when they're 18.
And
so
there's
that's
nothing
great.
you can do if your kid ends up being kind of a clunker.
Yeah. I think
clunker. I don't know. Is that something you would call a kid?
Well, there's a couple ways to think about that. I would say this is probably not going to be all your assets, right? And so if the kid is a clunker, and they're going to make some mistakes, you'd probably want them to have them make it with that account before they inherit what you've saved, because I imagine if you're starting with your kids, you're going to have a decent amount of savings. So they're going to have to learn at some point in time. And so learning with a little bit less is probably better than when they inherit it all and go, I've never done this before. But anyhow, so I would suggest that as custodial account. And then for fantasy, I would say, caps.fool.com is a good place for people to go here. It's free. They can enter whether they think that stock will beat the market or not. And once they get 7 stocks, they'll have a rating and all that kind of stuff. That's a good way to go on and learn what other people are liking and just kind of get them interested in stocks. I'll give a couple other things that my kids enjoyed when they were younger. One is we play the market cap game, and that is you can take 20 different companies, put 2 rows of stocks there, and we used to give out $1 for every right answer, and they would just say which company is bigger. So by market cap, you could have General Motors and Microsoft and kind of go down the list. And the great thing about it is fosters discussions about these different companies. They could have hints. They were free. They were always truthful, but sometimes misleading. So they could ask who has more sales in those companies and tell them, General Motors has many more sales than Microsoft. They would go, okay, that's the bigger one. Wrong. It's not. We have a discussion about how profitable Microsoft is versus General Motors, and it leads to good discussions about that. And the last thing I'll suggest, and I think this is just a great to get somebody interested in investing, is encourage your children to start their own business. And that may sound funny because they're 12 and 8 and that kind of thing, but they can. You'd be surprised how entrepreneurial kids are. Give them a little bit of seed money, $100 to $200, and let them figure out a business for themselves. They'll learn about shoebox accounting. What are my expenses? What are my revenues and what are my profits? There's all kinds of great lessons that come out. It doesn't have to be a big business. It could be babysitting, dog walking, making lemonade, whatever, shoveling snow. It's a great way to learn about investing and kindle that fire a little bit.
And the Motley Fool also has a mobile game coming out in the next few months. So keep an eye out for that, Janet. Okay. I haven't played it, but you're looking at me like you don't believe me.
No, I believe you. I know we've been working. We've got people slaving away on that game, and I'm sure it's going to be awesome. But do kids like mobile games? They play them these days?
I don't know. They're probably onto something else. Right. Something we don't even understand.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about custodial accounts is it is an asset owned by the kid. So we talked about how they get possession of it at the age of majority. But also when you apply for financial aid for college, assets owned by the kid will reduce your aid more than if it's an asset owned by the parent. For a lot of people, it doesn't matter because they're not going to get financial aid anyhow. But if you think that is in your future, that is a consideration, and you might consider going with you just have the account yourself and you're just going to hand it over at the right time.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
Just this works for my kids anyway. We use Stockpile as our brokerage, and it allows the kids to have a window into their own account, and they can actually make a trade, and it comes to me as the guardian of the account or whatever to approve their trade. So that way they can have a little more hands-on, and still it's in your control to actually make the trade that they do. And they also do fractional shares, which is important for small amounts of money. Lets them buy companies like Berkshire or whatever that are high dollar stock price, but still good companies.
That's great.
Great.
Can't you also easily like gift stock through Stockpile as well?
Yeah, that was kind of their
how
stick
they
at the beginning. Is you could buy gift cards in the grocery store and hand them like, here's shares of Microsoft or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of a neat little gimmick, but I think that there's other aspects of that particular brokerage that are even more conducive to investing for kids. There may well be other brokerages out there that are equally good for different reasons or whatever, but that's one that I like, and I like that idea of letting them. They don't do much. My kids are a little young, but I like the idea that they can make the trade and it just comes to me for approval. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Folio FN has an ability where you can, in one trade, buy portions of whole portfolio of stock. So you could put in 10 or 15, and in one trade they get a spread across that, which is really nice if you have a small amount of money and you want to spread it and get some diversification across a basket of companies. So that's another option for folks.